The recording arrived at Seoul Station at 347 hours, Terran Standard Time. Admiral Marcus Kane stood in the communications center, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the holographic display. What he witnessed in those 47 minutes and 32 seconds would forever change the relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had been humanity's most gifted diplomat, a woman who could negotiate peace treaties between warring species and find common ground where others saw only conflict. She had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in human diplomatic history, attempting to establish peaceful relations with the Zephyrian Empire, a xenophobic species that had rejected all previous council attempts at contact. The recording showed Elena standing in the center of a massive amphitheater, surrounded by thousands of Zephyrians whose crystalline bodies pulsed with hostile energy. She wore her finest diplomatic robes, the blue and gold of Earth's united government, and spoke with the calm authority that had made her legendary among the diplomatic corps. "People of Zephyr," her voice echoed through the chamber, "I come, not as a conqueror or a threat, but as a bridge between our species. Humanity seeks only to understand, to learn, to coexist in this vast galaxy we all share." Admiral Kane watched as the Zephyrian High Priest, a towering being of living crystal and flame, raised his staff. The crowd's hostile murmur grew to a roar. "Your words are poison, flesh creature," the High Priest declared. "Your very existence is an abomination to the purity of the cosmos. We will cleanse you as we cleanse all contamination." What followed made even Kane, a veteran of 3 wars, turn away from the screen. The Zephyrians had methods of execution that were artistic in their cruelty. Elena's death took 47 minutes. She never broke, never begged, never renounced her mission. Even as the crystal flames consumed her body, she continued to speak of peace, of understanding, of hope for a better future between their species. The recording ended with her final words, "Tell them, tell humanity, that some bridges are worth burning for." Kane's hands trembled as he shut off the display. Around the communications center, junior officers wept openly. Communications specialist Chen, who had worked with Elena for 5 years, had to be helped from the room. Within 6 hours, every human colony, every ship, every outpost in the galaxy had received copies of the recording. The response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Terran Defense Force, previously a modest peacekeeping organization, transformed overnight into something far more deadly. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed as millions of humans volunteered for military service. Industrial worlds shifted to wartime production. Scientific research stations began developing weapons technologies that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. But it wasn't just military preparation. Humanity's response was methodical, calculated, and terrifyingly comprehensive. Dr. Sarah Chen, humanity's leading xenobiologist, led a team that spent 3 months studying every aspect of Zephyrian physiology. They discovered that the crystalline beings were vulnerable to specific sonic frequencies that could shatter their physical forms. Within weeks, human engineers had weaponized this knowledge. Meanwhile, Captain James Wright of the Intelligence Corps infiltrated Zephyrian space with a small team of volunteers. They spent 6 months mapping every military installation, every population center, every strategic resource in the Empire. Wright lost half his team, but returned with intelligence so comprehensive that human tacticians could plan surgical strikes on targets the Zephyrians themselves had forgotten. The economic warfare began first. Humanity controlled several key trade routes, and they used this leverage mercilessly. Species that traded with the Zephyrians found their human contracts mysteriously cancelled. Shipping lanes were temporarily redirected. The Zephyrian economy, dependent on exotic materials from distant worlds, began to collapse. President Maria Santos, addressed the Galactic Council 9 months after Elena's death. The chamber was packed as she took the podium, her black dress a stark contrast to the colorful robes of alien dignitaries. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of grief and fury she carried. "Ambassador Vasquez died believing in the possibility of peace. She died believing that understanding could triumph over hatred. The Zephyrians answered her hope with cruelty beyond measure." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the assembly. "We did not start this conflict. We sent one woman with words of peace, and they returned her to us in ashes. But we will finish it." The Zephyrian delegate, Prince HFY, rose from his crystalline throne. "You dare threaten the Empire, you primitive." His words were cut short as every light in the chamber dimmed. Through the massive viewing windows, the assembled delegates could see the human fleet materializing from jump space. 300 ships of the line, their hulls painted matty black and bristling with weapons that seemed to bend light around them. "That is not a threat, Prince," President Santos said quietly. "That is a statement of fact." The war lasted 18 hours. Human forces struck simultaneously across 47 Zephyrian worlds. The sonic weapons shattered their cities like glass. Plasma bombardments turned their crystal forests into molten rivers. But the humans were surgical in their precision. They targeted military installations and government centers while leaving civilian populations largely unharmed. The Zephyrian High Priest, the being who had ordered Elena's execution, was captured alive. Humanity's justice was swift but proportional. He was executed by the same crystal flames his people had used, but his death took only minutes rather than hours. When the shooting stopped, the Zephyrian Empire had been reduced to a handful of farming colonies, their military destroyed, their government dissolved. But humanity's true message wasn't in the destruction they had wrought, it was in the mercy they showed afterward. Human medical teams arrived within hours of the ceasefire, treating Zephyrian wounded without question. Human engineers helped rebuild civilian infrastructure. Human teachers established schools to help Zephyrian children learn about the galaxy beyond their shattered empire. 6 months later, former Prince HFY, now elected leader of the Zephyrian Cooperative, stood before the Galactic Council. "We were wrong," he said, his crystalline form pulsing with what his species called deep shame. "We believed that might made us righteous, that our isolation made us pure. The humans taught us that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when destruction is necessary and when mercy is possible." He turned toward the human delegation. "Ambassador Vasquez died for a dream of peace between our peoples. Because of her sacrifice and humanity's response to it, that dream has become reality." Admiral Kane, now serving as humanity's military representative to the Council, stood slowly. He was older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes still burned with the memory of Elena's final moments. "The galaxy must understand," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, "that humanity values peace above all things. We will go to extraordinary lengths to preserve it, to protect it, to nurture it wherever it might grow. But we will also go to extraordinary lengths to ensure that those who would destroy peace, who would murder diplomats under flags of truce, learn the cost of such actions." He gestured toward the memorial hologram of Elena Vasquez that now stood in the Council's Hall of Honor. "Elena died believing in tomorrow. We have made sure that tomorrow came to pass. And we will continue to make sure it comes to pass, whatever the cost." The chamber erupted in applause that lasted for 17 minutes. When it finally died down, the vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council's new peacekeeping charter would be called the Vasquez Doctrine. Under its terms, any species that harmed diplomatic personnel would face the full weight of galactic justice. And everyone understood that when the galaxy spoke of justice, it spoke with humanity's voice. The stars themselves seemed brighter that day.